Live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in to another data skills story show where we help you learn data skills and more specifically for today's show, getting a job. And I think one of the most requested is everyone wants to like in the current market want to get a job, and especially master students here in the US, going through a lot of things right now, and many people have requested this, and yeah, this show is dedicated for you, and we have an amazing guest today, Rob, who will be joining us and talking to us about how you can come up with better strategies for master students here in the US to get a job. With that, I am Lekhna, and in this show, we share all about data and getting a job. And so you can also share your story with the world. And Raj, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, this is Raj, your co-host. I've been in this data field for 6, 7 years now. I've been in AI and data science and robotics automation for about 12 years. Um, Currently working as a director of data science. And since the topic today is about hiring or data science jobs or data analytics jobs or after masters, right? So I have a lot of experience. I've interviewed hundreds of people to hire for my company and my team, data analytics, the analysts, scientists. So on your questions, I'll be happy to answer along with our expert guest today, Rob. So, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's have our guest, Rob. Rob Adams is the founder of Chai and Coaching, and an amazing person. I've met him personally, and yeah, he's here. So, Rob, do you want to get started with your introduction?
Hey, everybody. Welcome. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for hanging out on this Saturday. I'm Rob, part of Chai Coaching, where our goal is to help you be successful in your cross cultural journey. So I was working overseas, spent 8 years in India, doing consulting and training there, traveled all over the world, and then continued to do similar work here in the States. And I love especially helping international students and professionals study abroad, land jobs. Yeah, we've seen lots of success, learned a lot on what works, what doesn't work, and that's where we're breaking down today. So excited to be hanging out with Raj and Leica and discuss that, answer questions, and hopefully help you guys get unstuck in your job search, which has been really tough right now in America.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you all have any questions, do drop them in the chat box. So at the end of almost 10 minutes, we're going to be dedicating for you to answer all your questions. So drop it in the chat box. So yeah, first let's address some of the challenges, right? What a master students goes through, especially when I was a master student 5 years ago. I did have a lot of problems, especially when it comes to the culture and everything here in the United States. So Rob, do you have any like? You must have seen a lot of people coming and telling you, Rob, how do I do this? How do I do that? So what are some of the biggest challenges that you have seen master students face?
Definitely. Probably one of the biggest challenges is just not knowing the job market and assuming that getting jobs in America is going to be just like getting jobs in their home country. And that's like cross-cultural mistake number one that people make whenever they go to a different place is assuming things are going to be the same. Anytime you go to a new culture, a new country, a new place, the best assumption is things are going to be different, including how to get jobs. So people think, oh yeah, if I do the same thing that worked in my home country, it's got to work in America. And then they're shocked and discouraged why it doesn't work. Um, Another big challenge is only applying online. That's kind of the only one strategy that people have. And yeah, when you're only applying online, you're going to struggle because that's actually the worst way to get jobs in America. And I'll explain that a little bit later. And a lot of that comes from following the herd. Instead of doing their own research, doing things themselves, again, in America, we're a very independent culture country where you have to do things for yourself. You just kind of blindly follow the seniors or the herd, kind of following the herd of the crowd and doing what everyone else does. And then sadly, you get the same results, which is people aren't getting jobs. So those are the really big challenges that I've noticed that students are facing kind of each semester.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it also goes back to like you're so used to doing things a certain way, and it's like you have to come here. First of all, you're also learning, and on top of that, you have to learn this new thing to get a job. So I think I personally did face that. I wish I had met you like years ago, Rob. Yeah.
I've heard that from lots of people like, "Oh, if I only known this about, before." So, but thankfully we're helping a lot of people now.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Yeah. So do you have anything, Raj, that you faced that you want to share? Some of the challenges that you faced.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a good school, so I thought it would be easy for me to land a job right after masters.
Mhm.
That's definitely not the case. It'll get you interviews, but you have to prove yourself during the interview and compete with others. Go from a good school that just opens doors, but then you have to prove yourself to land a job. So yeah, um, be prepared. Don't take things for granted. Be ready to put in the hard work and don't have an expectation that you apply, you get a response. No, you apply hundreds, you get maybe 10, 15 responses, you get 5 interviews out of that, maybe, and then you got to crack the interviews by actually performing well. So set the right expectations. Initially, if you think you'll apply only for 10 and you'll get hired within that, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and failure. So that's the kind of job market we have. And right now, the job market, I think, is even more challenging. So be ready to more networking. I think we'll talk about it in topics today. But yeah, just applying online is not the thing. I know that. I mostly applied online then. So uh, I'm curious to hear more from Rob on this topic.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I think looking for a job is a job in itself. Literally, it's like it takes so much effort, so much time, and if you don't have like the proper resources, it's hard. It's really hard. Yeah. Absolutely. So Rob, like, so what do you think are some of the tips on how someone can stand out, especially for the master students who are about to graduate in the fall or in December? So, what do you think are some tips that they can stand out or maybe start working towards right now that they can, start showcasing themselves to potential employers?
yeah, yeah, great question. And the key word here is stand out. Um, that is how American culture is. That is the American job market. It's about standing out. And for most international foreigners coming to America, especially from Asian cultures, standing out is really hard because your culture teaches you to blend in, to harmonize. Most Eastern Asian cultures, think of Asia, Middle East, Africa, you guys are from communalistic cultures where it's you got to stick together. You blend in, you harmonize. And that's a wonderful thing. But in America, we're the most independent culture in the world. And so it's all about being different, which
Mhm.
I know can be very hard for you if you're Asian or South Asian. So you're going to have to really adjust because, and the reason is your degree doesn't guarantee you a job. I get so many messages saying, "Hey, Rob, if I study this, will I get a job?" I'm like, I don't know. Your degree doesn't get you a job. People can go to Harvard or Yale or Stanford, UC Berkeley, um, and get a 4.0 and still not get a job because you don't know how to stand out. So your degree doesn't guarantee you a job. That piece of paper is nice, but it's a very small part of the pie, as we say. And so what's more important is the proof that you can actually do what you say you're able to do. Projects is a great thing. Projects come from your classwork. So making sure that you're in classes, working with professors where you don't just learn theory, but you actually produce things. You have projects. There's things that you publish, produce. There's tangible things that recruiters can click, scroll, read, analyze. There's real tangible things. It's about the proof. And this comes from, maybe, and the great ways you can display that is through a personal website, a GitHub, a dashboard, a publication, getting your stuff out there that people see, oh, this guy made this thing, that's really good. Or this girl, she completed this thing, and this is the impact it had for this company. So in your classes, in your on-campus jobs, in your internships, volunteering. Student clubs and organizations are also great because a lot of them will kind of freelance for local companies and do real awesome work that you can say, hey, look what I've done. And so less about the degree, less about the GPA, and it's more about the projects, the proof, the tangible things that show you've got the actual qualifications that solve problems for companies.
Mhm. Yeah, that's something so important. I think like as back to my master's time, I think one of the things that I didn't like know was that, you know, over here, like everyone has a chance. Like you if especially if you're able to showcase the skills, you can just like you can get a job anywhere, like even without. I personally had a colleague who didn't even have like a degree, but he was so good in SQL that he was like really, he was the best at it,
Hmm.
and he had a chance. Like he was able to do it, he was able to grow in his career. So I think that's something that I guess it would be a very cultural shift for people, especially from South Asian background, because you're like studying, you work so hard for all these years, and then you're like, okay, now I have to get a job.
Hmm.
That kind of attitude. So that's there too. So do you have anything, Raj, in those lines?
Yeah. Agree with what Rob was saying. A lot of things, and I'm surprised about a few topics that Rob was mentioning. I'm learning again. Like I got the feeling that I just have met Rob when I just graduated or when I was studying. Uh, so definitely, you know, very valid points, right? So you got to satisfy what the employer needs or what the employer is looking for. If you don't know that, start networking, start meeting people and asking them what skills are important, what to be successful in your job. One good way is like interviewed from like data analytics, data science, in Instagram, and there are other videos too. A day in life of data scientist or journalist. Go watch those videos. You understand what you do day in day out, and showcase those skills, like Rob was mentioning on GitHub, portfolio page or a personal web page, GitHub code itself, right? Have your resume with clearly specified projects and the skills, right? Basically, we as employer, we need to know you can come in, you have the skill set, start doing your work without extensive training or coaching. And that's what we are looking for, readiness, right? So that, and you'll stand out for the potential employers and do something different, right? You don't do the same Titanic data set analysis and put on your resume. Do something different. Pick up your own project, collect your own data, do a project based on your own data. That shows that you have those skills that are required to be successful in the industry. I think that's what makes you stand out to potential employer. I I can share my story. I'll take maybe 2 minutes to share my story about how to stand out potential employer. I went from you know right after my I was hired by this company called National Instruments in India, um, and this was a company that always went to tier one, tier two, like IITs and IITs in India, which are like top universities. And I did not study in one of those universities back in India. And the way I got into National Instruments was basically I was really good at doing projects, um, applying. I went to a lot of athletics competitions. I've won a lot of competitions, and I participated in a competition that National Instruments organized, and we won third place, India. So it was a national level competition and came third, and that was my entry to show I've got the talent. You got to talk to me. They to offered me an interview, and then I gave an interview. Everyone, it was about 9 rounds of interview. For me, it was just 3 rounds because they're all seen my talent, my presentation skills, my ability to do the work that they want in the day as engineer in their company to do. So these were all additional things that they already saw. So it was easy for me to get in and go from a tier three school all the way to National Instruments was a big deal, and that happened because I worked on projects, I went to competitions, more hackathons and competitions, and show them that I can do or have the skills that they're looking for. So that kind of, helped me get into National Instruments back in India, about 15 years ago, I think. Yeah. So, uh, a short story, but again, this emphasizes on understanding what uh, the company is looking for and your skills and standing out that way.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And also, if you have any questions, put it in the chat box. And also, let us know where you're joining us from. It'll be nice to see where you are from. So, with that, I think it brings us to like, what are some of the more effective job search strategies? So like when I was a student, it's really hard for us to like say, okay, this is, do this and you should be able to, at least get a few jobs. And I think one thing that I learned over time was, I guess, like having it more organized in a way, like, which company you're applying to and those kind of things. And also one of the most important thing is what I learned was is to like reach out to the recruiter on LinkedIn. Just send them a cold email or a message, something that I think I wish I knew it. So do you have some strategies like that, Rob, for for students?
For sure, for sure. There's lots of strategies out there, and I want to preface this saying that different things are going to work for different people, and that's okay. There isn't one formula, one copy paste.
Mhm.
So just you have to do what works for you. Figure out what works for you. But if we're talking about what's effective, what's most effective in America is networking. Um, and the reason is the American job market functions with what's called the hidden job market. I don't know if you guys have heard that term before, the hidden job market, but the vast majority of jobs in America never get posted online. So, of all the jobs that are available that companies are trying to hire, only a small portion, a small fraction actually make it online that you can go apply to. Most of the jobs in America are filled through relationships, networking, and referrals. And so if you're applying online, you're missing out on the vast majority of opportunities for what companies are trying to fill. And so they come through relationships, which means you have to know professionals. There's this kind of myth among people, especially foreigners who come to the US, is that the more job applications I fill out, maybe the more and more opportunity I'll have to get a job. And they just hope they'll get lucky. But that's a myth. The truth is, the more professionals you know, especially the more American professionals you know, the more likely you're going to get a job. That's what the proportionality really is. Sadly, many international students, many foreigners don't know Americans, or at least have them as a friend. And so they fill out all these applications, hundreds and thousands, but they don't know any Americans. They need to flip it. They need to know hundreds and thousands of professionals and Americans because that's where jobs come from. They come from relationships, they come from networking, they come from referrals. That's kind of the hidden job market where the doors of opportunities really work. Um, and that's really how the job market recruiting process works as well. Can't really go into all the details just in this session, but believe me, recruiters are going to hire someone from a referral or a known relationship rather than a random stranger online. And so most of the time you apply online, probably 90+% of the time, nobody's going to see your application or resume. It's just going to go dead, or it'll be rejected. So it's understanding how the job market works, which emphasizes networking, referrals, and relationships. Is that's how Americans get jobs. If you ask your American friends how they got their job, they never said, "Oh, I applied X amount of time." They say, "Oh, it was this person or that person or this person or that person who helped me get the job." So you have to learn how to get jobs like an American if you're in America now.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, that's so important. And also, I have another question, Rob. So, what do you think? How important is a resume for job search? Um,
Great question.
yeah.
I think it's not very important. A resume is a necessary formality. You'll probably have to show somebody a resume at some point. My mantra, and again, people might disagree with me, and that's totally okay, is the more you rely on your resume, the more you have the wrong job search strategy. The less you rely on your resume, the more you have the right job search strategy. What I mean is, if you're relying so much on having the perfect resume to crack the ATS and get approved, that means you're going for the formal HR route of applying, being a random number, and most likely not going to get anything.
Mhm.
But if you aren't relying on that resume that much and instead focus on relationships and networking, yeah, you have to have a good resume that someone's going to look at and okay, this is decent. But
Mhm.
if you're relying on like your resume being the golden ticket, you're having the completely wrong job search approach. And it's so sad that people pay people to write their resumes for them and,
Yeah.
getting the perfect resume, and they're just wasting their time, money, and effort on the wrong thing, which is going to just lead to more disappointment, which is really sad.
Mhm. That's something like I didn't know about this. Yeah, I think that's a very great point that you brought across. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had my mind blown by what I was saying right now, right? Because I've always taken the traditional route, and that's why I was telling you, you got to like apply, apply, apply. But definitely give uh, the strategy a try. Rob is definitely an expert. He has worked with thousands of master students. Uh, so yeah, definitely something to give it a try. But yeah, I've heard networking does great. My current job was networking, so I can also vouch for it. But I'm more aware of the traditional route. So
Yeah, and I'll explain that
something
a little
definitely to
bit
try
more
it out.
too with the resume, is because, especially if we're talking to international students here, they've all got the same resume. And earlier we talked about the importance of standing out, but if you focus on your resume,
Mhm.
one, the college is going to make you all have the same format. And then you're all going to have good GPAs because you're all smart and study hard. You've all got the same qualifications. You've all got similar amounts of work experience. So you've all got, the same resume, cover letter, elevator pitch, same not so great LinkedIn profile. And so when everything is the same, how are you going to stand out?
Yeah.
And so if the goal is to stand out, you're either going to have a drastically different resume, which again, most people really aren't going to know how to do, or you can focus on the relationships is what really gives you the opportunity to stand out and not a piece of paper that's going to look like everybody else. So if standing out is so important, you're not going to be able to do that through your resume because your resume is going to be just like any other of the millions of F1 students across America.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think that brings me to like one of the like mistakes that I made a lot of mistakes when I was looking for a job, and I think even I went the traditional route, like Raj was saying. Just keep applying. I don't know, you might just end up getting one or two. But I think Rob, like based on what you said, that applying through networking, building relationships, that's more important. Apart from that, do you have any other mistakes that you see many master students make?
For sure. Yeah, there's a lot. That's what I mean. It was seeing all these mistakes happen again and again and again and again, year after year, is what motivated me to start trying coaching is, hey, maybe we can fix some of these and get people going in a better direction
Mhm.
and find some more success because they clearly aren't getting the help they need at the colleges. They aren't figuring it out on their own. So let's help. And I've learned so much too, about this special, unique context and all the hard work and crazy things that international student life is here in America. So it is tough. I want to make sure it's not easy, especially the job search. And like you said earlier, like it is like a full-time job. And so one thing is, yeah, people just think that they're going to be guaranteed a job. That's a big mistake. Is, oh yeah, if I come to America, I'm going to get a job. No, that is not a excuse me, that is not a guarantee. Another I think mistake is starting too late in the job search process. A lot of people waste that very first semester because America is overwhelming. We've got a weird culture here, and everyone's trying to adjust to life and finances and cooking and cleaning and studies and making friends and exploring American culture that they forget to focus on their job. So mistake number one is that, job search starts from day one in America. Most people think that they're going to wait the first semester, get adjusted, and then start looking, but they've actually missed the most important recruiting opportunity, which happens in the fall. Most companies recruit in the fall for their internships the next summer, and you've missed it. And so a lot of people start too late, or they've got everything, they have to have everything perfect and ready, or they have to have X amount of whatever they think in their mind needs to be done, and then they miss out. And so job search starts from day one, networking starts from day one in America. Another just huge mistake, like we've talked about earlier, is only applying online. That is the only strategy that people have that they know. and then they're missing out and very limiting themselves on a small portion of available jobs in America. And then I think too, just LinkedIn is another big mistake a lot of international students make. Not knowing how to use LinkedIn, not having an optimized profile, not posting or contributing content on LinkedIn, and then just begging on LinkedIn, asking random strangers for referrals or making posts of desperation that I can't find the job. Please, someone help me find the job, And so they just don't really have good practices on LinkedIn that actually can hurt them, and hurt their chances of getting a job. And so I wish there was more LinkedIn coaching and training that happened for international students, because LinkedIn is so powerful, so amazing. If you do it right, jobs are going to come to you. But again, most people aren't using LinkedIn to its fullest potential or using it wrong.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That is, so. Do you want to share what you do at Chine Coaching, Rob?
Sure, in terms of what?
Like, how do you help students?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. So Chine coaching we started several years ago. When my family we came back to America, having loved living in India, and one of the colleges nearby that has a vibrant Indian student association, we would go to their fun events like Diwali and Holi and all the fun festivals. And because there's so many students, they get a lot of Americans to help volunteer. So we would start doing the airport pickups and the housing and orientation, and made some really good friendships. And then after a couple of years, like I said earlier, we saw those mistakes happening. So me and some friends brainstormed some ideas and said, "Hey, what can we do to help?" And so we started, making videos, drinking chai, and just telling people stories and experience to try and create content to help other people not make the same mistakes, just like what we're talking about. Learn from those who've gone before you. It's been cool that it's grown into this great community of, we've got tons. I mean, we've got everything covered A to Z for how to study abroad, get visas, adjust to American culture, get jobs on the YouTube channel. I also do personal coaching calls if you want more specific help. We've done online courses and course cohorts to help people get jobs. And yeah, we just love resourcing, equipping, and helping people reach their goals, land their dreams here in America, and learn from those who've been able to do it so that you can do what you want to do here and kind of remove those obstacles and give you more the clear path to success. So we love helping people do that.
Mhm. That's awesome. You're doing some amazing work, which I knew when I was a student. But yeah, I hope this helps someone who is watching us right now. With that, do you have any other thoughts, Raj? Did you want to?
Oh yeah, I wanted to pick Rob's brain a little bit on the networking tips.
Hmm.
Uh, for especially for words, it's really hard to go into those and meet other professionals. Um, how do you coach people to do that, or what kind of tips do you have to let master students go out and network? Where they
Yeah,
go networking, how can they reach out?
definitely. Yeah. Networking is a skill you develop just like any other skill, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. And so a lot of that takes just stepping out of your bubble, out of your comfort zone. Most international students, their roommates are the same culture, their classmates are the same culture, even the professors are their same culture. So in the university setting, there's not a great chance for them to network and meet other Americans, other professionals. So they really have to step out of that bubble. And the best place, the easiest place to start is meetups. This is where students find the most success. Just go to meetup.com. They've got a great phone app. And in any major city across America, there's going to be lots of meetups where you can go, and they've got everything from photography to hiking to big tech to SQL to Python to data science to machine learning, AI. You're going to find meetups for everything and anything. Maybe happen, once or twice a month. And mostly it's all professionals, and they're always pumped when students come, because students don't come to these things. And the beauty about a meetup is everyone is going for the same two reasons: to learn and meet new people and see how you can help each other. So there's not that awkward agenda of like, oh no, what are people are going to think about me here? Like, we're all here for the same thing: to learn from each other and to see how we can help each other out. And the students that continuously go to meetups again and again and again, spend the time, spend the money on the bus fares or taxis or whatever it takes to get there, those are the ones that easily get jobs because they have connections in the local industries. And then the pandemic made meetups even easier, because now you can do meetups. A lot of them are virtual. So you can join meetups in Seattle, in New York, in Houston, in LA, in Chicago. So there's no excuse for at least, once or twice a week, attending meetups, hanging out with professionals, learning from them. And as someone builds relationships with you, they get to know you, they like you, they know your value, then they get excited to want to help you too. But random strangers on LinkedIn aren't going to help you. But people that you meet and hang out with at meetups, they're the ones that are excited to help you. Other great opportunities, again, Raj, you mentioned competitions, hackathons. Those are also awesome. One, you get to test your skills. And if you win one of those, that's a big deal. And a lot of these competitions and hackathons are hosted by companies. So there's going to be industry reps from these big companies nationally, locally at these competitions and hackathons. You get to hang out and network and get snacks with these people. And if you win, that's again just great for your brand, great for standing out. Conferences, there's tons of tech conferences across the country. Go to these conferences. A lot of them have scholarships for students. Grace Hopper, GHC, the Grace Hopper Celebration is a top one. Even though it's female focused, guys can go as well. And I know students who go to Grace Hopper get job interviews and get jobs. It's that simple. It's crazy how many people have gone and just gotten jobs from that conference. It's awesome. And then alumni, you know, uh, c- probably the best thing you can do on LinkedIn is reach out to alumni, make connections, start a conversation, and then try and have a coffee meetup or a virtual coffee chat. And don't go as a beggar, but go as a learner. Say, hey, tell me your story, tell me your journey. Hey, would you be open to, chatting once a month just for 15, 20 minutes? We can get to know each other. I can ask you my questions. Would you kind of be a casual mentor for me? Could I reach out to you? And I bet maybe one or two alumni from your college would be happy to do that because I know people help them and they want to give back and kind of build those relationships. Again, start early, and then they're the ones that can help guide you and make other connections or open doors. And so many easy ways to network. The question is, are you going to do it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Doing it is the question, right? Like you need to put in that effort.
That's what
Definitely.
sets people apart, right? Standing out.
Hmm.
Doers are few. Those are amazing tips, Rob. I've been going to meetups to find some candidates to hire too. So yeah, I was like trusted the other options, online resumes, and hundreds and thousands of resumes being filtered out. I went to meetups to go and find some folks. So you said, yeah, the very few college students there. I'd love to see more of them. Uh, and yeah, just network and build relationships. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rob, for sharing that amazing tips. With that, we will take in questions now. And I think we already have a couple of questions here. So the first question is from Priyanka. She's asking how to start applying for entry level jobs. Okay. 2 years of experience. So to get shortlisted, what do we need to include in resume? Okay, I think there are like three questions in this.
Mm-hmm.
So the first is how to start applying for an entry level job. And then how do we get shortlisted and what should you include in your resume? And the next question is, does certifications play a major role in resume? I think for first question, for entry level jobs, Priyanka, if you're talking about data specifically, I think we mentioned about importance of projects. So I think Raj was mentioning about not having the common data sets on your projects. Get a new data set or solve a current problem and add that on your resume. That will help you get an entry level job. And when it comes to getting shortlisted and what do we include in resume, Rob, do you want to take that question?
Yeah, I mean, one tip, especially if you're a student, is that companies actually have what they call grad roles. And so there are specific job roles that companies, especially big companies, hire for that are specifically for new graduates. And these are even different than other entry level roles. And so in a grad role, they don't expect you to have any experience whatsoever. Even entry levels might require a couple years, but if you're a student and you don't have that, look specifically for grad roles on the job portals and company portals, because then the expectations are different, and the competition is different. So that's a great kind of way to look. Certifications are helpful, but I say like certifications are like making your bed and brushing your teeth in the morning. It's something that everybody does. So if you've got them, great, but they're not going to be a game changer because everyone else has them too. So, have the necessary certifications that are expected of the roles you want, but they're not going to be a huge game changer because anyone can take an online course. The question is, can you do it? And what's the proof that shows that you can do that? So that's more important, is the proof projects, whatever you can show that you can take the certification learning and actually implement it. So that would be my advice on that.
Mhm. Yeah. Raj, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think Ron nailed it, and that's what I look for in the resume. So something different, something that have a skill, and just certifications and a master's degree and courses.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we have another question. So I think, Rob, since our audience is more data specific, we're getting in a lot more data questions. Uh, yeah, can we take that?
Yeah, take as many questions as you guys want, and if they're super data technical, I'll let you guys handle those.
Mhm.
So yeah, I know you guys have a lot of awesome experience too.
Yeah. So this question is from Nilesh. He's asking how to get an entry level job. Again, data science without any IT experience. Do you want to take that, Raj?
Sure, yeah. Do your research with the companies, right? And use some of the techniques that Rob was mentioning today. Go network and introduce yourself. Go network. Start early. Don't wait till graduate or you have 1 month to graduation. Don't wait till then. Start early. Start going to meetups. Start networking. Meet folks. LinkedIn about your projects that you're working on. So it's not that you're posting only when you're starting to look for jobs, but you're posting and sharing knowledge and your experience and your projects on LinkedIn. That's a good way to show that you're consistent, you're actually putting in effort, and it's not like um, just before you uh, start looking for jobs, you dump 5 projects on LinkedIn and has no history, and it's hard to say whether you really did it or it's just there. Um, have the things like GitHub portfolio website to provide more information. So all these things help, and to stand out, just have a good project. And if you can do something that's currently relevant, something in the news, something that people are reading about, those are some good topics. That way, it shows that you can take something that's current and work on it by collecting data to working on something that nobody has worked or very few people in the world have worked on. So those are some good ways to build mate, start networking, and all that stuff. Um, yeah, so that should be a good way. And again, reach out to companies, apply, network.
And
Yeah,
LinkedIn is a great place to research as well. So LinkedIn has awesome search functions. So I highly recommend experimenting with that. Not only do recruiters use the Boolean search to find people, which is why it's so important to have an optimized profile, but you guys can, as job seekers, can search and look for these kind of roles like entry level data science roles and see what kind of profiles people have on LinkedIn and then see where your gaps are. Whether it's degrees, certifications, experience, skills. Look at these people working in the companies and positions you're interested in, see how your profile matches up, and then you know where you need to work on to get equal or get ahead to stand out and be competitive in that industry and job role.
absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's also someone else who's asking pretty much the same question that we covered, talking about why is it so hard to find an internship? And I think to this question, I would say if you've not checked out this website called forage.com, I will put it in the chat box. It is a virtual internship place where you can go in, do your virtual internship, and get an experience. So that might be of use for you because if you're finding it hard to get an internship. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I wonder if with internships, in the last just 5 years, data analytics have blown up. You
yeah.
know, 5, 10 years ago, nobody was studying this,
Yeah.
and now literally everybody is studying this. So a lot of it's just supply and demand. There's been a huge shift in the market where everyone wants to do this. A lot of people are wanting to do this because it's the buzzword, it's the new big thing, it's the new sexy industry. But you know, with that, there's gonna be more competition, and people who are doing it just because they're riding the wave, but maybe aren't actually that skilled or qualified. It is going to be harder. You have to do even more, even more, even more now to stand out. Like, especially you're
Hmm.
you're going against some really sharp people. There's some really smart people, really good people doing this stuff. You just can't walk in and then expect to get a job in this kind of industry. And now AI is completely changing that too.
Yeah.
And even a lot of these roles now are going to be either supplemented or replaced with AI stuff. So that's even a new big debate that's happened in the last year.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it's going to be hard. And then also all the layoffs in the last 6 months also is making it hard
Yeah.
with tech companies.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of factors that are impacting this, at this moment for this 2023 summer.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hmm. One thing that I noticed with like interviewing data analysts, right? Um, a lot of them think data analytics, you know, data analytics that data analysts use like Power BI, Tableau, Excel, PowerPoint for visualization. That's not it. You also need to focus on the fundamentals. I had so many candidates that I was interviewing, both entry level and a couple of years experience level. Almost everyone had ignored statistics, which is the fundamental. You need to know the statistics. You need to know how to quantize or how you measure a KPI. What's the difference between median and mean? Not very few people knew the difference was. They didn't know the different kinds of visualization. When you would use what, they couldn't relate that to real world data and things like that. So do pay attention to your fundamentals. Be good at statistics, visualizations. Apart from the tools, tools are given. Yes, everyone. Uh, we kind of had those other certifications that had built some dashboards, but you need to also have the fundamentals. Um, so that's what I would like to add here.
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah. So, do you have any final thoughts? I think we're done with all the questions. So, any final thoughts, Rob?
I'll share a couple things. One is don't lose hope. It is still not too late to get an internship. I repeat, it's not too late. I have a lot of friends that even in May or June would get their summer internship. So there's still time. Don't give up. There's still time to implement these new strategies and things you've learned to kind of pivot. If you keep applying online, you're going to keep getting the same results. Even now with the really tough market, um, applying online is not going to be helpful. Networking is really the only way you're going to get jobs in this kind of economy, in this market. And unfortunately, the economy is going to still be stuck for a while. The government, which got us here, isn't doing things to fix it. So instead of just hoping that it'll change soon, you have to be willing to change yourself and your job strategies in this job market. But yeah, I think showing up to things like this and learning is great, and get help. Connect with any of us, with Raj, with Leica, and me. Message us. We've got a like great. I know they have great resources on their platforms. We've got great resources for you guys too. So we wanna help you out, and guide you. And yeah, just try and actually don't just take the information, but go do something with it. And I think you guys will be finding some cool things happening.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that I've learned over the years is just take something and go with it, do it. That's when you get the results. So, thanks, Rob, so much for giving us all your knowledge, all your tips. And I really learned personally a lot from you today. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Loved it. Great questions. Thanks for everyone hanging out, and hopefully we'll get some messages later on that said, "Hey, this helped people in their job search." So That would be awesome.
Hmm. Yeah. Thanks again.
Thanks, Rob.
Cheers,
Thanks,
everybody.
Kika, for hosting.